Council-elect on the Development Committee. Thank you for joining us today. My colleagues, Marquise Harris-Dawson and Gil Cedillo, have joined me for this exciting and important discussion. Mr. Clerk, what is before us? Madam Clerk, what's before us?
Mr. Chair, item number 1 is a Chief Legislative Analyst report in response to motion Price Koretz Wesson relative to an instruction to the Chief Legislative Analyst to work with appropriate city departments and community advocates to determine the feasibility of establishing a City of Los Angeles Fair Chance initiative or ban the box policy to remove barriers for individuals with a criminal record and to examine ban the box policies in other cities. This item is also referred to the Entertainment and Facilities Committee.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Today we're discussing a motion that I introduced almost a year ago called the Fair Chance Initiative, also known as Ban the Box. Our President, Barack Obama, earlier this month announced the Ban the Box policy for federal hiring and hiring by federal contractors. There are also numerous states and municipalities, including New York, San Francisco, and Chicago, that have enacted policies. I'd say that the movement is going strong, wouldn't you? Yes. The reason so many can get behind this policy, including some private employers, is because they know that nothing stops a bullet like a job. When people not my original statement, but true nonetheless. Own it. But true nonetheless. When people re-enter society, they face extreme difficulties in finding employment, sometimes a place to live, getting credit, you name it. According to the National Institute of Justice, a criminal record reduces the likelihood of a job offer by 50%. 50%. The impact is even greater among African Americans and Latinos who already experience racial discrimination in the labor market. So it's no wonder that we have such high recidivism rates. By enacting a ban the box policy, we will help get people a foot in the door and provide them with a fair chance to gain employment, obtain credit, obtain housing, and become active members of our community again. Members, either of you care to chime in at this point before we hear some?
Let me concur with the chairman's comments.
Okay.
I would also like to associate myself with the comments of the chair. I think this is a really good issue to be discussing today. Folks know we had a long, hard morning talking about the other side of re-entry, which is all too often homelessness. And so as we're crafting a policy to deal with homelessness in the city writ large, I think this is one of the important pieces that, I was very excited a long time ago. I think this was before I even started running. Councilmember Price had raised this as an issue and provided leadership for the city of Los Angeles in this regard. And so supported it as an activist, was out there with a picket sign supporting Ban the Box and spoke at the rally, and now we're happy to be on this side of the chair where hopefully we can be a part of moving it forward. So we're excited about hearing the report today.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate your leadership outside and inside. You've demonstrated a unique ability. Mr. Senator, you going to finish your, okay.
I have a great sense of urgency. We need to do things, and this is one of them, so let's do it.
I share it. I'm sure there are people in the audience that can explain the importance and the value of this policy much better than we can. So with that, let's take some public comment, and then we will get the report. And we have Kimberly Guillemette. Kimberly, why don't you come on up and set the tone. Welcome to the city, and welcome to your responsibilities as Director of Reentry.
Yes.
But I'll let you explain that.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and also council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Kimberly Guillemette. I represent the Office of Reentry for Mayor Garcetti. We are here today to stand in solidarity and support of this motion. We think it's extremely important. First, let me just start by saying that my office is charged with developing policy and systemic reform and also programming to remove barriers to reentry for people who were formerly incarcerated. A recent study showed that 73% of individuals who were formerly incarcerated said that the top barrier to reentry for them was employment. And obviously that's no secret to any of us in this room. As our office works to reduce those barriers in the areas of housing, employment, trauma-informed care, et cetera, we want to make sure that all policies, especially in our city, are supportive of those who are formerly incarcerated. The research is clear. The most cost-effective and research-based way to create safer communities is through supportive programming that provide multi-systemic wraparound services for individuals who are formerly incarcerated. And included in that, obviously, would be employment, development, and training. Ban the Box works to remove barriers for those who are formerly incarcerated. And so by moving forward with this important motion today, we are not only reducing significant barriers for those who are formerly incarcerated, but we are standing in solidarity and in support of our brothers, people and our sisters. Yes, and sisters, and people who have been marginalized often by society. We're showing that we care and that everyone deserves a second chance. So on behalf of the mayor, we are so happy to be here today, and we urge that we move forward with this important motion.
Thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate your... After laying such a good foundation, we're going to ask that the remaining speakers hold your comments to 1 minute. I'm not going to cut you off in mid-sentence, but we want to get to the meat. So come on up. Dave Bates, Gus Corona, Rafael Cabrera, Mike Featherstone, please.
Well, thank you for having us here today. I think this is, I can't even imagine that we're even discussing this now. I'm 26 years retired from the LA County Sheriff's Department, just finishing my retirement. Most of my career I worked on making the streets safe, putting people behind bars, thinking that's where they belonged. But as the end of my career, I actually had a chance to actually see the difference, what we were doing. It only took us 150 years to figure it out. We were doing something wrong. The Sheriff's Department is really serious about safety and keeping people safe incarcerated, but however, warehousing people is not the answer. Now, I saw that when I would arrest people and then I would go back and see them on the street. This just perpetuated a problem because it never found a solution. I'm retired. I'm working with Five Keys Charter School. We have a reentry program. I'm the director of reentry here in Los Angeles County, and I'm doing nothing. Is that my time?
That's your time.
Okay, well, I'm just going to finish up by saying, I think this is very important, banning the box, and thank you so much for having the ear to all these great people behind me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Gus Corona. I'm a Senior Assistant Business Manager for IBW Local 18. I'm here today to speak in behalf of giving people a fair chance and an opportunity to get their lives back on track. This can only be accomplished by giving people with criminal convictions a second chance, an opportunity not only to apply for jobs, but to get hired into jobs that allow them to provide for themselves and their families. An example is an example of this is Mr. Jorge Rubio, who worked at the Department of Water and Power as a construction electrical helper, which is an exempt position in which participants have 18 months to qualify for electrical distribution mechanic apprentice program. The EDM classification is a critical classification in which the department is currently facing a huge shortage. Over 17 months that he worked at the department, Mr. Rubio received extensive on-the-job training in order to prepare him to qualify and enter the EDM program, the EDM apprentice program. Mr. Rubio worked hard, received above-standard evaluations, and along the way he earned the trust of his coworkers and his supervisors. In shortfall, Mr. Rubio was prevented from completing the exam process because city personnel looked at his background and refused to allow him to complete the apprenticeship program, and thus prevented him from entering the
Thank you. Thanks for the comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Featherston. I'm a business representative for IBW Local 18. We have a utility pre-craft trainee program. It was established in 2011 with the collaboration of the IBW Local 18 and the LA Department of Water and Power, working together to establish a pipeline for members of the community to obtain exempt jobs at LADWP. This program is a Learn While You Earn program, which employees earn $16 an hour plus health and welfare benefits. We've hired almost 200 UPCTs, as we call them, and over 50 of them have taken and passed civil service exams and are now in permanent positions with the City of Los Angeles. We're committed to ensuring that the program is truly an open pipeline to all of our communities. That means that we work to give fair chance to people with criminal convictions. This is a rigorous program, and to have a UPCT work hard, follow all the rules and directions, and perform well on civil service exams, just to be told by the personnel department that because of their past criminal background, they'll be removing their name from the civil service list is just unjust.
All right, thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate it. On deck, Tiffany Jamerson, Don Garza, Shimus Hurley, and Lakis.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rafael Cabrera, and I have been a UPCT for over 1 year now. I was very excited about getting a second chance with IBEW and Department of Water and Power. I heard about the program, and I gave 100% to it. Becoming a civil servant is something very important. So all of my criminal activities occurred over 30 years ago, and the last one was committed when I was 18 years old. As a UPCT, I learned HYPE Home Energy Improvement Program, where we go into the homes and help the people in the city to save energy and to save money. At the same time, I learned a lot of things. I was doing a lot of tutoring, taking tutoring on my time off, trying to learn as much as I could, passed exams. I passed the STEAM Plan Assistant exam with 85%. I passed a few other ones with good scores, so I'm on the civil servant exam, but I was limited now by an exam by the city personnel because of something that happened when I was a teenager, when I was 18 years old. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and thank you, and thank everyone.
Thank you very much.
Hi, council member. I think it's Tiffany Johnson.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, is that a J?
Yeah. So I would just like to begin to say thank you for having this hearing today. I'm speaking on behalf of someone who experienced the bandit box practice. As coming home after doing 16 years, I was granted an opportunity to go in front of an employer 3 months out and had a great opportunity to actually sell my skills opposed to my background. And with that, I was with that company for 3 years. It was a wonderful experience for me, but not only for me, but it was very beneficial for the company because in that time span, I was allowed to save that company millions and millions of dollars. And so I am not a rare person. We have a lot of people who are formerly incarcerated who have the same abilities and skills. If just given the opportunity, they can give back to the community and make it a better place for everyone.
Thank you, Tiffany. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lakis. My government name was Latice Fiamaletta Pugh. I did not experience any type of felony experience until after 40. And once I did actually experience that, I had a new outlook on life. At the end of the day, a person should be judged from their character and the content of their being in that moment and not from their past. If you are being judged from your past, it's almost like turning around and licking up your vomit. So at the end of the day, a person needs to be judged from who they are in that moment, at that second, and as time moves forward, and not from their past. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a beautiful day today. These are the people that motivate me to keep going.
All right.
The people that have had hard times, seen hard time, and are now trying to get their life back together without giving up and giving in to the negative stuff. The people in front of me right now, especially Gil says, I know them very well. I suffer with the anxiety disorder and I have a physical illness. That man right there gave me a second chance. I was able to work on his political campaign. I made more money than I don't know what to do with when I was doing that.
Uh-oh. Tell all the stories here.
That's right, folks. Y'all got it from my town crier. That's right. But you know what? Gil understands something that we all understand in this room, those of us that are here, that a job is dignity. That's what that is. You have a job, you have dignity. You can carry yourself and your head held high. I will never judge a person by their past. What I see is what they do now. If they have a work ethic, if they don't steal, if they've changed their ways, my hands are tied to help those people.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Hi. Seamus had to leave. I'm Julia Wick. I'm speaking as a member of ICAR, a Jewish spiritual community composed of more than 500 families, and we're also a member of LA Voice. Our community is not the most obvious ally on this campaign. We're, for the most part, white West Side Jews, many employers and business owners in our community. And we've been working on this Fair Chance campaign with our partners at LA Voice, Homeboy, and A New Way of Life for the last 9 months. It's something our community cares very, very deeply about and that our congregants are very engaged on. And so I just wanted to make sure the panel knew that this isn't just a black and brown issue. This is something the whole city cares about, even Jews on the West Side. And also, I'd love to get a job with you as well. So.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us
Thank
and
you.
for holding this
Thank
hearing.
you.
He didn't tell you about the hours.
We'll be doing recruitment later today. Don Garza, Patricia McAllister, Oliver Bowie, Isidore Lepes, and Christopher Donridge.
Patricia McAllister here. I'm very happy about this ban the box. I'm just concerned about African Americans getting a fair share. African Americans, millions of us, don't have to check the ban the box, and we're being discriminated against. So I think this whole program is to help whites who have convictions and illegals. That's what I think. It's not about black people because we're being discriminated against and we don't have a criminal record. So I say, get your thing together. Quit creating these programs that don't help black people. And I noticed that he walked out of the room. The three, and Dr. King used this term, and I'm still going to use it, the three Negroes that we have on this panel in city council are not doing anything for black people. And I say only 9%, this is fact, only 9% of the people here voted in the last election. And I say let's vote these Negroes out of office and put some Negroes in here that's going to help black people.
I'll vote for that.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Doddridge. I'm a pastor of Verdugo Community Church in Northeast Los Angeles. And I'm just here to speak in solidarity with all of the people that came before me, believe strongly in this issue. There are many in my community that I've had conversations with and have had the heartbreaking experiences of not being able to do anything when many of these people with criminal records have not been able to get jobs because their applications have been thrown out even before any consideration. So it's been an honor to be here, and I'm happy to hear that all of you seem to be on board, and as well as all of the people before me as well. So just like to echo those sentiments, and we're here with you. I believe strongly that, well, my beliefs are biased towards the marginalized, and so that's where I'm going to stand and continue. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Reverend Oliver Bowie from Holman United Methodist Church, and also standing in solidarity with Homeboy Industries as well as LA Voice. And I'm here because, one, I believe in redemption. Also, I'd like to say to all three of you, I want to thank you for your visionary leadership for even presenting this. And I'm hoping that we will move this through quickly. Hopefully, next week this will be on the agenda. And I tell you, it is a sense of urgency, and everyone needs another chance. And I tell you, through this will at least give people an opportunity to get a shot at a job that they may better themselves. If we don't allow them or accept them paying their dues for doing their time, if we punish them all over again, shame on us. So please, and I want to thank you that it appears that all three of you are on board. Keep up the good work. Anything I can do, and the organizations I'm working with, to continue to move forth positive legislation like this, we're here for you. And thank you so much for your time and your service.
Thank you. We've been joined by Councilwoman Nuri Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Isidro Lopez. I'm associate pastor here at Dolores Mission, and I'm just like to also express that great need that we have in this city to give fair chance to those people who really need chance to establish their own grounded lives in our own city and help them out. We can help them out to build their own families. The city needs families. In order to be a healthy city, we need give them an opportunity to free them from the chains that sometimes we as a society put on them. But also, I think part of my job is to find people walking on the streets or building their homes as with equality as any citizen, and we can all together do that to establish them as more precious things, image of God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jose Osana, Cheyenne Pierce, Zuna Favela, George Nunez.
Good afternoon, committee members. Thank you for having this hearing today. Thank you for working on this much-needed policy. I'm proud to serve as Director of External Affairs for Homeboy Industries. I'm here representing our organization as well as Father Gregory Boyle. I just want to say that this policy is in line with the vision that Father Greg has had for 30 years. The reason that Homeboy Industries exists is because people were marginalized for employment as a result of their felony convictions. So I urge you to please move this forward as quickly as possible. It's very needed. I've dealt with the pain, both personally and professionally, for almost 7 years now at Homeboy Industries, and I unfortunately get to hear all the bad stories about people being excluded. So we have a great opportunity here in the city of Los Angeles to pass a great policy. We are definitely not at the forefront, but we can definitely be true leaders with a very strong, comprehensive, and robust policy through the Fair Chance Initiative. So I urge you to please support this and move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Cheyenne Pierce, and I am employed. I'm employed by Homeboy Industries. I have an amazing job, and everyone asks, what are the barriers? What are the barriers to employment? Let me just go back. I'm the manager of employment services. What are the barriers? But no one ever asks me, what are my barriers? The box. The box is the barrier. I'm a social worker, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room that is doing social work, who's been awarded an amazing grant to give me the job that I have. But you need to remove the box if you're going to award the grants so that I can do my job to produce successful outcomes. And I need for each and every one of you to support this initiative today. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is George Nunez, and I'm also at Homeboy Industries, and also with LA Voice. This has been a very sad moment for myself, because for years I've been excluded because of my background. You know, not able to prove myself, not able to show my social skills, my work skills, physically and mentally, because of this box. Today, I'm a successful father. I'm a successful family member to my wife, and just a good household husband. What brought me to Homeboy Industries is because of that box. But today, I just ask that you support this initiative for not just for myself, for other people in the community that want that chance, and not be afraid to voice their opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Azucena Favela, a resident and community leader in South LA. I'm here before you today in support of Ban the Box. I've had firsthand experience working with employers and supporting the placement of individuals who have been forced to check that box. What I've learned is that with some support, both parties can actually have very fruitful relationships. Employers often get hardworking individuals, and applicants get an opportunity to become self-sufficient. I'm also here to remind you that the folks most heavily impacted by the box are folks that share my skin color and that of all of you. They are predominantly black and brown young men and women who have been affected by chronic poverty, institutional racism, and are victims of the prison industrial complex. I encourage you to rally your peers and support the most vulnerable community members. They've served their time, they've paid their debt, and need an opportunity to reestablish themselves. These individuals are not, as I once heard it said, defined by the worst thing they've ever done. We've turned our back on them before, let's not do it again.
Thank you. Hey, Jared, our last speakers, Jeremy Smith, Miguel Lugo, Guadalupe Torres, Brian Silver, and Damian Johnson.
Do you want to move this chair there? Here, we're going to put this chair, I don't know.
Yeah, get another chair up there. And you're not the last, we do have some more. Everyone has a chance to say their piece. Okay. Sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Jermaine Smith. I work with Homeboy Industries and with LA Voice. But before that, I was a gang member for over 20 years, and I grew up in boys' homes, detention centers, juvenile halls, county jails, and eventually prison. It wasn't until I was given a fair chance by Homeboy Industries that I was able to redirect my life. And instead of me, spending the rest of my life in jail or being out in the streets gang banging, or worst of all, ending up in a casket, I'm sitting here in front of city council members fighting for people like me instead of against people like me. So this is really important, and we represent what a fair chance can be like, me and my brothers and sisters at Homeboy Industries and with LA Voice. So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
My name is Miguel Lugo. I work at Homeboy Industries. I served my time. I served every minute, every hour, every year they gave me, or 18 of them. So after 18 years, all I want is a fair chance. I want a fair chance to be a member of society, to come back and not have to go behind those walls. So I could be out here free. Not only freedom, but freedom of being able to pay my rent, being able to get a good job. Every time you go put an application, the first thing they see is a felon. Turn it down. Go ahead and put it to the side. So all I'm asking is for that to be removed so I can have a chance. The judge already gave me a chance to get out. I've served my time. Now I want a chance out here in society. I want to be a regular taxpayer just like anybody else that pays for the gallon of milk I go buy for the kids every day. That's it. That's all I'm asking for a fair chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Damon Johnson with Homeboy Industries, also LA Voices. Myself as well, was a gang member for 20 years. I was released in 2006 From 2006 to 2012, I filled out over 150 applications until I was received by Homeboy Industries. My mother gave me that positive reinforcement to keep a smile, like a seller's motto, to keep a smile and keep trying. Everybody in my community don't have that model, though. So I know a lot of brothers and sisters that really couldn't provide for their children, so they did whatever they had to do and reoffended and went back. And those kids might have went to the system or to their grandparents, which put more strain on those people there. I'm in college. I have a 20-year-old daughter that's in college. I went to college just pretty much to build up my self-esteem. Most likely, I'm going to have to pay for student loans that I really, you know what I mean? I may not be able to get a job. It's going to be another 150 applications that I'm prepared to fill out in order to get a job in the profession that I'm going towards. So please support this. Remove the box.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Guadalupe Torres. I'm from Homeboy Industry, also supporting the LA Voice. I'm also an ex-felon, two-time felon. I'm here to ask you guys to please support us because we have gone through a lot. You know, yeah, we did our mistakes. You know, we paid the price, but now we're ready to, you know, come back and do right for not only for ourselves but for our families. So all we're asking, you know, the past is the past. You know, we're here to do what's right for us, our family, to prove ourselves that we could do it. So, you know, all I'm asking is, you know, I'm not going to tell you my life because everybody, we live the same life. We live the streets, you know. So please support us. Give us the opportunity to reinstate. I just want this. That's all I want. And I'm speaking it from the heart, you know.
Thank you.
Council members, my name is Brian Silver. I'm here with Bet Teshuvah. It's a Jewish faith-based organization. It's a rehabilitation center and reentry program. And really what I'm waiting for is the day where my past does not define my future. I want to be able to move forward with my life just like all these people here. And I think it's important to remember that it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish it. And this box and the removal of the box will help enable us to finish this race. If you were to judge every book by its cover, that box that's on that cover, this cover, our story to our book, you'd be missing a lot of great stories. You'd be missing a lot of chances for people to change the world. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Wayne from Encino, Juliet Lett, Jaime Garcia, and Brian Barajas.
A lot of these people get convicted of a felony. Many times it's because their attorney sucked or because they couldn't afford a valid defense. The felons in this country that never get convicted are the ones with the most money. So what you have is you have a class and racist-based system that creates felony classes of people simply because they're poor, simply because they're not white. And that's the reality. So a lot of these people would not be in this situation if they had the right resources to fight the charges. I was arrested last week at the police commission for trying to attend the meeting, and they want to put me up on attempting a riot, a misdemeanor. Now, I'm going to fight it because they're full of shit. That's why I'm going to fight it. But a lot of these people before didn't have the chance, so give them another chance. Get rid of the box and evaluate a person in their present-day state, not discriminating against them for something they may have done a long time ago.
All right, thank you.
My name is Juliet Lett, and I am a member of All of Us Are None. And my little sister introduced me back in 2003 to All of Us Are None while she was in prison. She got out after doing 21 years, and she died suddenly having a brain aneurysm after being home only 5 years. But the opportunity that was given to her was from another woman that had been in prison that had started a program called A New Way of Life. I want to just talk about Proposition 47 and how it has helped people, and that was a voter. It was on the ballot, an initiative to drop felonies from misdemeanors, certain felonies from misdemeanors. I hear a lot about building prisons and doing the things like that. These signs say schools, not prisons, sentence and reform now, because some of those sentences should have been misdemeanors in the first place, because most boxes asked, have you been convicted of a felony? So with that being said, I had the opportunity, I have 14 and a half years clean by the grace of God, and that's because somebody believed in me. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity, didn't have that opportunity that I did to have somebody believe in them. And I work now with people on parole that are trying to get, and the barrier is the box.
Okay, thank you.
Box.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jaime Garcia with the Hospital Association of Southern California. Although the document mentions the California Labor Code Section 432.7, which exempts health facilities that have physicians with access to patients' drugs, medication, the report is completely silent on the Medi-Cal provider agreement which hospitals enter into with the state of California, which require hospitals to certify that its owners, officers, directors, employees, agents have not, one, been convicted of any felony or misdemeanor involving fraud or abuse in any government program, two, entered into settlement in lieu of conviction for fraud or abuse within the last 10 years, and three, found liable for fraud or abuse in any civil proceedings within the last 10 years. There are other requirements, but I just highlight the most salient ones to today's discussion at hand. The report also fails to address the OIG, the Health and Human Services, at the federal level, which prohibits hospitals with Medicare and Medicaid contracts from employing individuals convicted of crimes related to Medicare or Medicare fraud, drug dealing, patient abuse, neglect, and other financial crimes. So I would encourage this committee to examine this issue beyond just the labor and employment perspective, but also from the perspective of hospitals in terms of their contractual relationship and obligations to the state and the federal government. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think anybody who deals with background checks knows that anybody who wants a job and this goes for anybody who they have a criminal background check on the person. What I'm saying is no one is exempt from being discovered if they have a criminal background check. What I've noticed here is that it just seems for me that people who would like to have a job, whatever it is, it just seems to me that the process by which they get a job is being neglected. And I think that's a crime in itself, because you have a sovereign person who wants to do good, and they should have the opportunity to seek that out.
All right, thank you. All right, that concludes our public comment. Let's ask the CLA up to the front. For a review and discussion of the report, and we'll ask you also to address concerns that were raised about the particular circumstances with the hospitals and medical facilities.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Felipe Valladolid Chavez. I'm with the CLA's office. And before you is a CLA report in response to motion Price-Koretz-Wesson relative to expanding the policy of removing questions related to criminal history from job applications and delaying the point at which questions related to criminal history could be asked to later in the hiring process. These policies are known as fair chance initiatives or ban-the-box policies. The motion specifically requested our office to work with city departments to determine the feasibility of establishing a ban-the-box policy in the city and to examine similar policies in other cities. As of July 1st, 2014, pursuant to passage of AB 218, all cities and counties in California, including the city of Los Angeles, are prohibited from asking questions related to criminal convictions until it has been determined that the job applicant meets the minimum qualifications. To ensure compliance, a letter was issued by the city's personnel department in April 2014, informing city departments of this new state requirement. Some employers are exempt from provisions of AB 218. These include employers related to law enforcement, healthcare facilities, and children, and any position required by law to undergo a criminal background check. While ban-the-box laws do not prevent employers from considering an individual's criminal history, they require that such questions be delayed until later in the hiring process. Furthermore, ban-the-box policies only apply to employers who choose to inquire an applicant's or employee's conviction history. In California, the cities of Compton, Richmond, and San Francisco have expanded their ban-the-box policy to city contractors, and San Francisco is the only jurisdiction at this time that applies it to private employers. And it's those employers that have 20 or more employees. Nationwide, there are numerous state and local agencies that apply ban-the-box policies to public agencies. President Obama recently announced efforts to delay questions related to criminal history to later in the hiring process for federal employment and federal contractors. There are also a number of cities that have expanded ban-the-box policies to private employers. For example, Baltimore, Chicago, New York City, and Washington, D.C. have all expanded their policies to private employers. Chicago's policy applies to all private employers, while New York's applies to employers with 4 or more employees. Baltimore and Washington, D.C. applies to employers with 10 or more employees. All jurisdictions surveyed delay criminal conviction questions until later in the hiring process. Some ask either after a conditional job offer has been made or after it's been determined that the applicant has met the minimum requirements. At this time, the City of Los Angeles does have a ban-the-box policy that applies to all city departments. This policy, however, does not currently apply to city contractors or private employers. The question now is whether the council wishes to expand such policy to city contractors and or private employers. The city attorney indicates that expanding the policy to city contractors is permissible. However, while there is precedent in expanding ban-the-box policies to private employers in California, the city attorney is currently researching whether such action is permissible. The city attorney has indicated that the San Francisco Fair Chance Ordinance has set precedents in its expansion to cover all city contractors and private employers with 20 or more employees. If the council wishes to expand the ban-the-box policy to contractors and or private employers, the city attorney should be requested to report on the legal ramifications of provisions related to the type of provision the council wishes to establish, applicability, whether council desires to include an exemption for small businesses or any other types of business, the point at which criminal conviction questions may be asked, monitoring and compliance provisions, and whether the council wishes to establish a penalty structure. Furthermore, if the council wishes to expand the ban-the-box policy to city contractors and private employers, we recommend that the council adopt the motion, determine the type of provisions to include in the proposed ordinance, and request the city attorney to prepare and draft the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. So if we were to enact this policy in L.A., will certain employees be exempt under state law? You sort of referenced that, but could you kind of...
Correct. The state law
exemptions?
exempts any positions that are related to law enforcement, any positions that have where employees have access to patients, drugs or medication, any positions that have to do with children. Those are already exempted by state law.
Okay. And the motion that's being proposed is that with the exception of those exempt organizations, the question could be asked. It would just be asked at the end of the process when a person has been otherwise qualified qualified for the position. Is that correct?
Correct. There are several ways of looking at that. One of them is to only ask the question after a conditional offer of employment has been made, or when it's been determined that the job applicant has met all the minimum job requirements.
If the applicant has denied the position because of the background check, is the employer required to provide a copy of the background check so that the applicant can verify the information that was provided?
That may be a provision that the city council may require. It really is up to the council to have that extra additional requirement to either have the conviction be directly related to the position to create an exemption for that, or any other type of exemption.
And lastly, are employees allowed to ask about arrests that did not lead to conviction or convictions that have been dismissed or expunged? And what about records relating to participation in diversion programs?
Some cities have those types of exemptions as well, or requirements. I'm sorry, not exemptions. Requirements where they actually find a conviction even before the employer can use the conviction to make a hiring decision. They need to go through a series of criteria to determine whether the conviction meets, whether the hiring decision would impact the hiring of the individual.
Members, any comments? Councilwoman?
Yeah, so like with any ordinance, my first question is always about enforcement. And so in my committee, wage theft, for example, was referred to my committee, and we're dealing with that, but the enforcement piece always makes me very skeptical, only because we have a terrible track record of enforcing our own laws. So my question about, and I'm supportive of the ordinance moving forward, but my question has to do with who's going to enforce it. Are we looking at possibly private companies being debarred in case they don't follow the ordinance? Will the companies be fined? And who shall the prospective job applicants file complaints to? So these are all important things when putting together a piece of law, because you want to be able to make sure you are being heard and that the law is being followed. So who in the city is going to be in charge of all of that? And I was reading over the monitoring and compliance piece in the San Francisco ordinance, and up north what they're doing is, I guess they get a warning. The first violation includes a warning. The second violation results in an administrative penalty of up to $50. That's it?
Yes,
And any subsequent violation could result in fines of up to $100 for each individual whose rights are violated.
Yes, I believe it's per day.
Oh, per day.
Until
Okay, that wasn't in your report. So, I mean, can you answer the questions about enforcement piece?
Yes.
To me, that's just as important as getting a law passed or an ordinance passed is the enforcement piece. If this doesn't have any teeth, it doesn't protect anyone, in my opinion.
Correct. So the decision to create an agency that oversees this program, monitors, and ensures compliance is also up to the council. Just as an example, the San Francisco does have the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement. And I believe there's also an office that's being created here in the city for minimum wage or wage theft.
Minimum wage and wage theft.
Correct. So that would be one option. The other option is, as in other cities, either their Community Relations Commission or Human Relations Commission also oversee it. New York. Correct. So there's those options, and we can consider both.
Well, committee members, again, when we were debating our wage theft ordinance, we were also debating how much resources we're going to allocate to this department to enforce. So I also think we need to take that into consideration when we move this item forward, because we need the enforcement piece in order for this to really work. And so if that means going back to budget and figuring out the funding pieces, then we need to have that conversation up front and not mislead anyone into thinking that just because we enact an ordinance, we're going to follow it.
Correct.
That's a good point, Councilwoman. In fact, that's one of the proposed recommendations that we instruct the Bureau of Contract Administration to report back on enforcement. But we'll see. Councilman?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Councilmember Martinez for her comments. They're consistent with the things that I wanted to ask, which essentially come from folks in the community that have seen ban the box policies and dealt with the city. One thing that we've heard, and this goes along with enforcement, is that in fact in some programs the box itself will be banned. But then when you have to do a background check, it turns out the background check is more intense than it was when the box was still there. And so, in effect, the box just moved and got bigger instead of got banned. So I wanted to hear what the safeguards are going to be for folks once they get down the line. And that's really where the enforcement gets even trickier.
Well, one of the determinations that needs to be made by council is whether or at what point you desire to have the question be asked with regard to criminal history. In some cases, I believe there's a couple of cities that do not consider conviction history at all, in cases for positions that are not exempt. So it really is up to you to determine, do you even want to ask the question, or can it be asked after the individual has been offered a conditional letter of employment.
Let me invite Michelle Rodriguez to come up. I understand that she's from the National Employment Law Project and has had some extensive experience in this issue with other cities. Would you share to just comment on what you've heard and maybe perhaps some things we've not
Absolutely.
discussed?
So just for background, I work with the National Employment Law Project. I'm a senior staff attorney there. I worked on AB 218 for a couple of years with the San Francisco Fair Chance Ordinance as well. Worked on that for 3 years, and the New York City Fair Chance Act, which just became effective on October 27th. And we're one of the lead partners for the Federal Fair Hiring Initiative, which part of that just came out with President Obama's announcement. All to say, this is something that we've studied very much in depth. I loved your comments, Councilmember Martinez, because you are exactly on point. Right now, where we are with this movement is we have about 13 local jurisdictions, plus 7 states that have private employer ban the box. And then beyond that, there are these jurisdictions that are looking at fair hiring, which address some of the very questions that are coming up here. If all you're doing is delaying the inquiry without getting to the heart of the bias that comes with a conviction record, then you are missing the point, the spirit of what we're trying to do. And so that's why it's very important that you have a job-related analysis and the kind of enforcement in place that we've seen in D.C., in Seattle, and some components of San Francisco as well. We did do a case study highlighting all 3 of these jurisdictions and best practices. And part of it has to be some penalties that are in place for people to take it seriously. This isn't about a game of gotcha. What we're trying to do is shift culture. What we're trying to do is de-bias the process. That's not easy, and we know from these different jurisdictions what works and what doesn't work. So you have the benefit of learning from all of these jurisdictions across the country that have had this in place and taking the best parts of it. Some of the things in San Francisco that we did we're very proud of. Some of them we're not. The $50 penalty is hurting enforcement. I do not encourage you to adopt that. What D.C. has done has been a stronger penalty structure, and they are seeing results.
What does their structure look like?
It is a structure that starts out, I believe, at 1,000 and goes to 5,000, and then it is geared towards the number of employees that an employer actually has. So your larger employers then are going to have a more serious penalty, and that's because they're going to take it more seriously. The most important piece of their penalty structure is that half of the fines go to the complainant. Now, I say that that's the most important piece because in Philadelphia, they were finding almost zero enforcement for their very simple ban the box policy. And what they did is they wrote in a letter, some of the advocates there, to the D.C. folks and said, this is something that we've seen on the ground that we think would make a difference. Because when you are a job applicant and you are poor, you are not going to have time to go to an agency to make a complaint, period. You're not going to trust that government agency either. What's going to make you spend your hard time that you have, very little time, to go to an agency? You have to be compensated just a little bit for your time. And D.C. has the #1 enforcement in the country. I encourage you to take a look at that. All of the different agencies have done very serious outreach and education as well. We want our businesses on board. We don't want this game of gotcha. And so that means paying attention to the education that needs to happen in the business community too. Those are just some of the highlights. We've gone very much in depth. I'm happy to cover more issues as well. And I know that our partners at Homeboy Industries, LA Voice, A New Way of Life, All of Us or None are leading this effort and have their own attorneys and staff that we're happy to work with too.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair. What agency enforces the D.C. ordinance?
It's the Human Rights Commission that's there. It's the Office of Human Rights.
And how old is their ban the box ordinance? How long has it been around?
Yeah, so it was effective as of December 2014, and the last time that I spoke with one of their officers is that they had about 500 complaints that went through, which as compared to, let's say, the city of Seattle, in the 2 years that they've had their law in place, it's just been about 60 or 70 complaints. And it's not because there's so many more violations that are happening in D.C. It's because they actually have a serious structure in place.
Thanks.
Any other questions, Councilwoman?
No, but I don't know who's going to move the item, but the only recommendation that I would like to make is that we waive this out of my committee because it was dual referred to the Entertainment and Facilities Committee. I think this issue is urgent, and there's no need to delay it by having to duplicate review in another committee. So I will waive it out of my committee.
Schindler, any thoughts? Okay. Well, members, without objection, we're going to request the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance to require city contractors and private employers with 10 or more employees to remove questions relating to criminal history from job applications and to require any questions related to criminal activity be made after a conditional offer of employment has been made. 2, instruct the Bureau of Contract Administration with assistance from the city attorney to report back on an enforcement strategy, including monitoring, compliance, and penalty structure.
Second? Need a second?
I'll take a second. If there are no objections, that will be the order. Thank you. Is there any other business before us at this time?
No, Mr. Chair. Just adjourn the meeting.
The meeting is adjourned.
Council today.